Welcome back to the Bourbon Note, everybody. I'm Ben. We're live. We've got some whiskey science tonight that's probably going to piss a bunch of people off, but let's get into it. All right, we're back live here, folks. Looks like there's some people in the chat. Let's get the background music popping off here. See who we've got so far. We have Sugar Kitty in the house. We got Peter White, cheers. Piper John, I think I saw here. Here we go. Cheers, Ben at the Bourbon Note. I'm assuming the CA stands for California Scotty, or it could stand for something else, I don't know. But anyway, thanks for being here. Excuse me. So, tonight's live stream, I wanted to go over a few topics that I legitimately want some feedback from you guys on. I thought it'd be fun to do this live. I've kind of considered doing an actual video with some of the topics I want to cover tonight. And basically, I'm just talking about like whiskey fact or fiction, like these different things that kind of float around in WhiskeyTube or in the whiskey community that people either do or don't believe. And so I thought it'd be fun to do a little bit of that. Maybe even do one or two experiments. Travis Rosenwald, Skoll, Minnesota Dave, I'm assuming that means Minnesota. We've got the state abbreviations tonight, I love it. Cheers to you. It's always good to have some fellow Minnesotans in here, so. CA could have been Canada, that's true, yeah, it could have been. Like the neck pour is real. More on that later, California Scotty. Which I know that I have beat that subject into the ground on many other live streams with friends, because that's kind of become like an ongoing joke that I'm the, well, there you go, Myron even shouted me out in his video that, I don't know if that came out today or within the last couple days, but his new video, which by the way, go check that out, subscribe to Bourbon Drop. But yeah, he shouted me out when talking about the neck pour, because I think I've become like, at least amongst our group of friends, the adamant neck pour denier. So anyway, yeah, so we'll get into that. But there are a few things that I kind of wanted to put together a whole video, but then I thought the video might get a little bit long. And I might still do it just because videos tend to get a little bit more viewership than live streams do. I know some people, at least for me personally, when I see a live stream like, hey, tonight we're talking about X, Y, and Z, and then the live stream is an hour long. It's like, okay, how long is it going to take you to get to the, to the point? So I might do a condensed down video of some of these same subjects. But let's get into it here. What are you guys drinking? I've got actually just a control bourbon, a little bit of Heaven Hill, 90 proof, 6-year, old school. Darren Crafton, what's happening? Don't drop the ball or the bourbon. I love Sugar Kitty's always got a funny quip too. And by the way, I'm glad Sugar Kitty is in the house because he's a wealth of information. And so I figured, I was hoping that I could refer to some people that may be more knowledgeable than I am. And so Sugar Kitty, I'm looking your direction for that. So Wild Turkey 101, Bourbon Drop with the Rare Breed, Peerless Double Oak. Nice. I haven't had that in a long time, but I remember really liking it. Just shake the bottle before opening, no neck pour. I mean, you would think. California Scotty's on the coffee, no drinking on the job, that's good. Okay, so here's one that I wanted to talk about. Excuse me, I'm sorry about the clearing my throat here. Having issues. Rebel 100, Piper John, I just had some Rebel 100 courtesy of Bourbon School the other day. I actually filmed a review of it, so I'll probably put that out here pretty soon. But I was actually impressed with that one for a good $20 budget pour. The stuff's not bad. Hold on one sec. Okay, it says, wait, you aren't Bill Nye on the Whiskey Science stream? I mean, I don't have the bow tie, so. Anyway, first one I want to talk about here. And again, I'm looking for as much feedback from you guys as possible, because some of these things I'm just talking like, I don't know. I'm asking the question just as much as I'm making the statement. The first one is label changes. And what I'm wondering with that is within WhiskeyTube, within pretty much everybody I know, the Minnesota Dave with the Weller Special Reserve, as soon as a bottle gets a new label, immediately somehow the whiskey is completely different. And I just don't get this. Like, I do understand that maybe, some brands, they have to adjust. I when the bourbon boom happened and everybody started buying up all this stuff, like Knob Creek dropped the age statement for a while and then it came back. A lot of people say Wild Turkey 101 isn't quite the same as it used to be. And maybe, some of that is because they had to put out more products, so they had to maybe put out some younger stock. And so, cheers, California, Scotty. And so, I get that. I get that some of these bourbons taste a little different than they used to a handful of years ago. Whiskey House Pub House, fellow Minnesotans. Dylan, go subscribe to Whiskey House Pub House. So yeah, I get that certain bourbons taste a little different than they used to just because of things like that, where, distilleries were kind of forced to use a younger age stock and stuff like that. What I don't get is why it just seems to be that it's automatically as soon as a new label comes out. Because you would think that if a distillery is going to change up its whiskey and put out maybe an inferior product, they wouldn't want you to know when they're going to do that. They would hope that you wouldn't notice. So I don't get why it would be that as soon as they put a new label on, it's like, let's immediately change the whiskey too. And that seems to be the going thing in whiskey tube. It's as soon as the label changes, the whiskey always changes, and it always changes for the worse. And so I don't know. I don't know if I really buy that or not. Because I don't really, I guess I think it would be weird if a distillery would, have this whole, batch of whiskey or this whole run of whiskey coming out, and then they go, okay, hold on, stop. This is the new stuff. Get rid of those bottles, bring in the new bottles, because we need to put the new whiskey in the new bottle. And I don't think they would do that. You'd think they would maybe gradually do that, but again, people seem adamant that, as soon as there's a new label change, the whiskey's always worse. And I think, is that one that's maybe gets blown out of proportion a little bit? I know we talked on the Whiskey 6 about Maker's 46 cask strength or Maker's cask strength, but those actually are batched products. It actually it shows the batch information on there. So, those are obviously going to vary. Everybody says the old school Maker's 46 cask strength and the high-shouldered bottle is better, but again, those are batched, so there's going to be some variance there. Maybe the new label is made only neck pours. Yes, that's probably what it is, Sugar Kitty. I think you've got it right here. Let's see if anybody's got any opinions. Piper John, it's impossible to be 100% consistent. Grains change from harvest to harvest, wood changes from barrel to barrel, but the label is just paper on the bottle. I couldn't agree with you more, Piper John. There is going to be some flavor drift on batch products. Only into whiskey a year and a half, so I don't know, but interesting question. Wilmington Piper, hit that like, people. Thank you for that. Is there some sort of we got Piper John and Wilmington Piper. Is that like a Shets and Jarks? Did I say Shets and Jarks? Jets and Sharks. I swear this is my first whiskey, and I've only had a sip of it. I love when that stuff happens when you're live. So anyway, yeah, let me know what your opinion is on that, because it's been like Wild Turkey 101 isn't the same since they had the label. Maker's Mark isn't the same since they changed the bottle shape for the 46. Old Forester, the whole whiskey row, none of it's the same since they put new paper labels on. And I don't know. So hit me up in the comments here. Let me know what you think. Am I completely off on this? Again, I'm not saying that the whiskey doesn't change over time because distilleries have to adjust. It just doesn't seem terribly logical to me that they would adjust abruptly right when, let's play jarts with Ben right now. Yeah, they did kind of sound like I said jarts, didn't it? Why were those called jarts, by the way? They're lawn darts. You'd think they would be called, larts or something. Okay. Moving right along, I am going to get into some science experiments here. Here's what I need from you guys in the chat to answer me this question. And this is a genuine I don't know question. Adding a couple drops of water to your whiskey. I learned this when I first got into it. Adding a couple of drops of water into your whiskey is supposed to... Javelin darts, okay, Sugar Kitty with the info. Is supposed to open up the whiskey. It's not just to proof it down. I'm talking about just putting a couple drops in. I was always told that the water interacts with the, I don't know, oils or whatever that's in the whiskey, and it causes a chemical reaction which causes the whiskey to open up. And so people say that if you add just a couple of drops, you're not proofing down your whiskey necessarily, but you're interacting with that water to open up the whiskey. So my question is, and I always believed that to be true. I never really tried it, but I took all this stuff at face value. I knew, when I saw Torop Hodel was in here, I was waiting for the first Bitcoin reference. And it came within the first minute of him first commenting, so that's awesome. Cheers, Torop Hodel, good to see you. So anyway, my question is, does that only work with cask strength whiskey? Because you would think if a whiskey's been proofed down with water, it's already been exposed to water. And so, I don't know, have you guys ever experimented with just throwing a couple of drops in your water? I do have some droppers here, so I'm gonna do that right now, but I'm gonna do it with the cask strength whiskey, because the more I thought about it, yeah, like I said, if it's a proof down whiskey, then it's already got water in it. So I don't know why adding a couple more drops would change something that's already been exposed to that much water. Then again, I don't know why a little bit of extra air in the bottle would change whiskey that's already been exposed to air, but more on that later. So let me know in the comments if you guys have tried this. I'm gonna get experimental here, so I need to get a cask strength banger. Let's see here. Oh, here I've got some. 100% all whiskey starts out as water anyway. It's helpful when it's too hot, like off Blue Label. Let's see. Blue Label, what Blue Label are you talking about? I do it all the time with Scotch or other single malts. So Peter White, that's what I'm wondering, because those, unless you're doing a cask strength, is there anything really for it to change? What should I try this with? Let's do B522. We've got some Elijah Craig barrel proof in the house. Old Forester. Okay, that's what I thought you meant, Torop. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pour just a half ounce of each of these. And maybe if you could throw me in a recommendation how much water you think I should put in a half ounce. 1 drop, 2 drops? Because again, what I was always told is you're not doing this to proof it down, you're doing it to let it open up. So I don't want this proof down. So I want to put as little water influence on the proof as possible. And I have an idea on how to do that. So, half ounce here. Half ounce there. All right, so I'm gonna get the dropper out. 2 drops each time, okay. I'm going with what Sugar Kitty says. So I'm gonna do the water on the right. Try 1, always add more, that's true. Let's do 1 and then so 1 drop. Okay. You can definitely see when the water hits the whiskey, it does create like a little thing. Now, in order to offset the idea of this proofing the whiskey down, I'm gonna go ahead and add an extra drop of bourbon to offset that 1 drop of water simply from a volume standpoint. There's 1 drop. Which I realize as I'm saying this sounds incredibly unscientific, and I don't know if there's any logic to this at all, but it's the best I could come up with to try to offset the effect of the water on a proof level, because I want this to be fair. Actually, you know what, I'm gonna go water on the, I don't know, what do you guys think I should drink first, the water one or the regular one to do this comparison? I know the right 4 on the left go to both extremes. Are you what is that in reference to? Did I miss something? Buffalo Bourbon Enthusiast, what's going on? Had a great time with Brian and Deb over on the Trash Palette Challenge where I lost 11-9. So, obviously I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to whiskey, so take this at with a grain of salt. It makes no sense, just less dilution. That's what I'm looking for, is just less dilution. I think the regular first, then see how the water makes that difference. Okay, I think that's a good plan, Minnesota Dave. So I'm gonna put the regular on the right. I'm gonna sample what the regular normal hashtag rigged Torapodal. I love it on the Baker's stream. I noticed that night. Every time they do a drawing, everybody puts hashtag rigged. That's hilarious. I'm assuming that's just kind of an ongoing joke with the community. I usually don't. Hanging AZ is here. I saw you in there earlier. I forgot to give you the shout out. I usually don't recommend experiments while drinking. Here, hold my beer. I love it. So anyway, yeah, go subscribe to the channels that are here. Subscribe to Buffalo Bourbon Enthusiast, Whiskey House, Pub House, Bourbon Drop. Any other channels in here that I'm missing? All right. The other question is, how long do I leave this in here for the water to do its thing? I guess I don't really know if that's something I need to worry about. But presumably when people do this to have a casual drink, they don't put the water in and wait a half hour. They probably just get into it. So let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Thank you guys for being here tonight. It's awesome. I usually don't recommend... Oh, you already read that one. Okay. So Brian said sometimes it opens it up, sometimes it just dilutes it. So I did try, like I said, to just offset the dilution, but... Sugar Kitty with the quips every time he drops a link. I love it. Sugar Kitty, if you could grab a link for Whiskey House Pub House too, that'd be much appreciated. Fellow Minnesota channel, go subscribe. On the nose, I'm not really noticing anything. Does anybody have any opinions on whether or not adding water to already proof down whiskey does anything besides dilute it? Because again, like I know this starts out as whiskey, but it has been, distilled, so I get that would change. But once you add that much water, so like for something like this, that's 121 proof, to add enough water to bring this down to 80 proof is obviously going to dilute it's going to be enough water to make a difference, dilute the flavors. And so when it already has that much water influence, let me know what you guys think. Because I don't think anybody commented on that aspect of it. So I just have to imagine this would only work with cast strength bangers. Yeah, on the nose, I'm not really noticing anything. Let's get into the palate, see what happens. Cheers. My hypothesis is that most of this stuff is nonsense. Now I'm just going to raw dog this because they're the same whiskey. Only thing I put a drop of water in is a few ECBPs and injecting a single barrel proofs, and Old Forester Blue Label, 1 to 4 drops depending on how fast they drop. Now, Torp, do you do that for? Do you do that to bring down the heat? Because that I get. You could even do that in an already proofed down whiskey.
That's what she said.
There you go, Myron. Ryan Frank checking in for duty. I would say right off the bat, you wouldn't think 1 drop of water would dilute this, but just because hot. Okay, got you. But that one came across a little more flat. So I'm going to start with this one again. Peach bomb. I'm not getting much peach off of this. Damn good, though. I'm not noticing any flavor difference, to be honest. It, excuse me, could be power of suggestion, but it just seems like adding the drop of water. It seems a little more thin. I'm going to add another one. So this is 2 drops now. And then I'm going to add Going to add the obligatory extra drop of bourbon. Because, I mean, at some point there is a level of, I mean, if I put 1 drop of water in a glass that was filled to the brim, obviously it's not going to affect it as much as it's going to have putting 1 drop of water in a, a half-ounce pour. So there is got to be some science to this, but I don't know. Sometimes it makes it more viscous, which is counterintuitive. That's interesting, Brian, because I've kind of heard that, that makes sense with what I've heard about it, is that it interacts with the oils and it's supposed to do something. But again, logically, that would only work on a cask strength whiskey. As the drink count goes up, the scientific integrity goes down. You bite your tongue, hanging AZ. I am the best drunk scientist on the internet. Old Scotch is more add a drop to open up because the oak sits so long and not enough air in the barrel since the climate. No, oops, I lost you. Impact is different. Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on there. Peach as well as mint are notes I can't really pick out. I get mint sometimes off of rye. I actually have a rye that I just bought the other day. I haven't reviewed it yet, but it's like on the nose, it's mint and pine. Like boldly mint and pine. It's actually, for the Minnesota folks here, it's actually a J. Carver 7-year aged runestone rye. Okay, so now let's get into this again. Go here, start with the non-watered one first. I get a bit of mint off of the Heaven Hill grain to glass rye. I think that was the first one where I really noticed a mint note. Yeah, flavor-wise, I'm not noticing anything here. And honestly, now I'm not really, excuse me, I'm not noticing as much, difference as far as, if the water caused that to be proofed down or not. I know that a lot of Scotch drinkers add water to 40 because it changes their impressions on those. Yeah, I can't imagine putting water in a 80 proof whiskey. Might as well just drink the water at that point. Come to Iowa for that Cedar Ridge pick. Hit me up. I'm only an hour away. Nice. Sazerac rye is minty to me. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I guess just adding a couple drops of water, I didn't notice anything that I think would opened it up at all. But I could see doing this on a cask strength banger if you just wanted to maybe round it out a little bit. But I think that's more dilution than anything. At least for me, that's what I'm getting right now. Yeah, nothing different. I'm not going to do the blend with these right now because I don't want to burn my palate out because I do have one more whiskey experiment here. And I'm glad that Brian is here for it because it's coming up. It's not next, but it's something he's mentioned before. All right, let's see. Old Forester Black Label better than Blue Label for a reason. I like the Blue Label. I do like the Black Label, but that does bring me to the next, let me see here. The next thing is actually, I've got a list over here. The next thing is a proof conversation. The reason I bring this up is because, hold on a second. I'm looking for a comment here. Okay. So the reason I bring up the proof thing, a lot of us, I think, a lot of people that are, super into whiskey, definitely kind of tend to like things at a higher proof. Yes, there is a Buffalo and a Rochester. And so I've heard people say, and I was kind of guilty of this for a long time too, and I've just kind of started thinking about it recently. Like when a Elijah Craig barrel proof comes out, and it's 121 proof, and people are like, wow, they used to be in the 130s, now in their 120s, they're not as good. The question I have is, as long as it's barrel proof, does it really matter that much what the proof is once you get to a certain level of proof? And the reason I say that is because a while ago, Greg and I reviewed the Remus Gatsby from, I can't remember what year it was. I have the sample out here because I was going to drink it, but I don't know. 15-year limited edition, 98.1 proof. I guess I don't know what year that is. So we reviewed that, and at 98.1%, it's cask strength, which is, you know, it's crazy to get a cask strength at 98.1. And I in that review, I said something to the effect of, it's missing something by missing that proof. And it came across as a little thinner to me, at least during the review. And so, you've opened my eyes to the proof thing, ethanol versus water. I plan to shoot a video and give you... All right, thanks, Myron. So you can talk about this subject too. So anyway, I said it came across as a little thin, being 98.1 proof. And so we got a comment from, let's see. I don't know if he's the master distiller. It's Ian Stursman. And I had said in that video that I thought maybe they had a lower barrel entry proof to get to the, you know, for it to come out at such a low proof at cask strength. So I was like, well, maybe it's, you know, they proof it down beforehand. And so that's where maybe where some of the experience was lacking. And so he commented back and he said, hey guys, the barrel entry proof is 120. Our rick houses are very humid, which slows down the evaporation rate of water, causing the proof to go down as the whiskey ages. Cask strength means no water was added, and you're getting the full flavor coming out of the barrels. Higher or lower proof at cask strength is not necessarily important. As whiskey spends more time in the barrel, at a higher proof it may pick up more alcohol-soluble components from the wood, or as it spends more time at a lower proof, it may pick up more water-soluble components. So there will be nuanced differences, but a lower proof cask strength whiskey will not be more or less flavorful than a high proof cask strength whiskey, as the ethanol itself does not add flavor. And I read that and I was like, you know what? That's a good point. I didn't think of it that way. Because really when you're proofing it down, the reason that proofing something down to a lower proof is because the water brings the proof and the flavor down. But when there's been no water added to that, the flavors aren't getting proofed down. And so I thought about it, and I think the reason that that it was coming across that it was lacking something to me is, yes, he's absolutely right in that comment that the ethanol doesn't add any flavor to it. But what it does add for me a little bit is experience. I like a little bite with my whiskey, and so the best way for me to describe that would be a lower proof cask strength. So lower proof, but no dilution of the flavors, but not as much ethanol bite, is kind of like if I were to drink a Coke, but it was flat. It's like the bubbles and the carbonation don't add any flavor to the Coke, but it does add experience. And there's something about it when you're lacking that part of the experience that kind of changes the taste. Does that make any sense to you guys? I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. Let's see here. Let's catch up on some comments. And so what I'm getting at here is once you do get to a certain proof point, like for me, you know, 120 proof, that's plenty ethanol bite for me. But I always look at it as the higher proof ones have better flavor because they're higher proof. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, well, why would that really matter? Why can't 120 proof barrel proof have just as much flavor as 130 proof barrel proof? Because neither one of them have had their flavors watered down. It's just a matter of, you know, maybe it's more water has evaporated from the distillate and maybe that gives it more flavor. I don't know. I'm looking for some guidance here, folks. Let me know in the chat. I don't pay as much attention to proof point as much as I did in the past. Low proof cask strength is pretty great for my taste. Yeah, I mean, I like higher proof stuff for, like, if I'm going to sit down and just have like a pour of whiskey, I like a good cask strength banger. But if I'm going to sit and have a couple of them, I like to get around like 100 proof. If I can get a good 90 proof, you know, or 94 proof, like an Elijah Craig small batch or an Eagle Rare or something, I'm all about that too. You know, because I don't want to sit down and have like 2, 3, 4 pours of whiskey that are cask strength because A, you're just going to end up hammered way too fast, and B, it blows your palate out. You can only drink so much of that before it's just not worth it. because you're just not tasting it. Next, let's try to run your vehicle on Elijah Craig barrel proof. Well, Bruzel tried to run a lawnmower on Weller full proof, but that's only like 115 proof. So let's see. Detling offsets with more air in the large barrel versus full barrel being in the deep south, and it comes out great no matter the proof. Okay, interesting. So Torup, you're saying there is air in the barrel. A flat Coke is just a Pepsi. Let's see. I know I don't buy anything under 95 proof, and I really prefer 108. Yeah. And so now, when I'm talking about low proof stuff, in this regard, I'm specifically talking about a cask strength that comes out as a low proof. Because anything, once you're proofing anything down, the lower the proof, you know, it's reasonable to say that you're going to lower the flavors. Now, some whiskeys tolerate that better than others, I think. Let's see. Does higher proof necessarily increase ethanol? I've had lower proof stuff drink hotter than higher proof. Well, the higher the proof, the higher the alcohol content, the less diluted it is. So I think in that regard. But yeah, I mean, there are certainly some that drink above their proof point. They certainly come across as hotter than other ones. All right, let's see. I have a cola maybe once a year, but yeah, I'll take a Coke, thanks. A lot is in the yeast for how much sugar turns to alcohol and how it reacts in the climate and wood. No two barrels are identical, just like fingerprints and stars, for sure. If someone put Weller in my engine, I would revolt too. Peter White must have said something about Maker's Cast, or somebody said something about Maker's Cast strength, i.e. Maker's Cast strength. What is that in reference to, Peter White? Let's see. Yes, Detling leaves room in their barrels. It's genius. Then they put a few barrels in a final barrel before bottling. So they are technically double barrel, but the first one has more air. Interesting. Higher the better. I'm a proof whore. Yeah, I mean, I get that. With the wood and air evaporation interaction. Low proof. Okay. Yeah, Maker's has a lower barrel entry proof. Yeast don't turn the sugar to alcohol. Aldehydes, ketones, and other flavor chemicals come out too. Then there's a matter of which of them come through in the distillation process. Okay. Once we start getting into the ones and zeros like that, like I have no idea. I don't understand it. Okay. Here's one that is solely, I guess this is really just more of an opinion topic. And I've brought this up before. And I asked a bunch of friends that friends of mine that have channels. Like I asked like Bobby and Sean, and this is a long time ago. I asked a handful of them this question. Does whiskey taste different when you drink it outside? And I've brought this up on some other videos, so you may have heard me talk about this. Greg and I did a whole video on this before. And for me, personally, whiskey tastes drastically different when I drink it outside. And it definitely smells different. Like the second I could nose it and drink it in the house, and the second I walk outside, it's a completely different experience for me. And so I tend to not like to do whiskey tastings outside if it's a new whiskey, because it's just, for me, it's mostly not even worth it. When I was getting some work done in the bar here, Greg and I filmed reviews out in the garage, and I would actually drink those in the house before going out to film the review, because my review of it would have been completely inaccurate. And, obviously spot-on accuracy is a priority here at the Bourbon Note. Let's see. I'm in summer sipper mode already, getting towards 100. Send me all your low-proof stuff. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. Does whiskey, when you drink it, does it taste different than inside? And my wife, who doesn't drink whiskey, but she's pretty good at nosing it, I even had her do that thing, and she's like, yeah, it's definitely smells different outside. And it could be because of the smell of the house, but it seems like it doesn't matter what house I'm in. But I do notice outside that there is, especially in the summer, there's maybe some humidity issues that are influencing it. And of course, if your smell is influenced, then your taste can be too. In Phoenix, I didn't know there was anything other than summer sipper. Whiskey House Pub House, so it does taste different to you outside. Okay. So anyway, I asked some Whiskey Tube friends about this a long time ago, and the only one who made a video in response to it was Bobby. It's just a smart-ass video. He goes, my friends at the Bourbon Notes say bourbon tastes different outside, so I'm going to test it. And he's like, does this bourbon taste different when I'm standing out by the pool? And he tasted it, and then he just went on to be like, does the bourbon taste different when I'm holding my dog? And does the bourbon taste different when I'm standing next to my Jeep? And it was a funny video. But when I'm outside, I get the smells of the M&M factory. Some days I get peanut, some days Are you really near the M&M factory? Temperature, yep, hanging. Humidity, plants, grass, trees, lots of, okay. So it sounds like a lot of you kind of maybe have the same. I want to know what Brian says on this. I'm sorry, I was just reading your comment. So Brian, what do you think? Does whiskey taste different when you drink it outside? Okay, so I'm caught up on that. So it sounds like at least I've got some backup on this. When we did the experiment, what we did is I'm the same when it comes to temperature. Outside doesn't affect me at all. Warm temp always tastes better, but I enjoy a Scotch chilled. Okay. 100 yards as the crow flies from the 2 U.S. M&M factory. Nice. Let's see. Did you get the FEW bottle? Interested in knowing the time? No, I did not pick that up, but I've kind of been curious about that. That's why I put that short up there, because it's just always been one of those brands that I've always seen on the shelf, and I've never known anything about it really. Somebody said it's pronounced FEW. It's not few. So I don't know what I can't remember who said that, but so I don't know which is the correct way to taste it. My Hormel Bacon Spam Factory Ardbeg only. It tastes different all the time. I like it above room temp. Yes, as far as the temperature of the whiskey goes, yes, I like it at room temperature. I don't particularly like cold whiskey. But definitely drinking it outside in the winter versus outside in the summer is different. But drinking it just, even if it's 70 degrees outside and 70 in the house, outside just tastes different. Nancy Fraley, I asked her about that. She was in the chat one night, and she says it tastes drastically different to her too. Okay. Look at it's FEW, not FEW. Okay, gotcha. I guess I never looked that close. All right, so moving on to the next one. Brian, I have heard you comment on this before. I think you said that, because Brian and I are diametrically opposed to each other when it comes to the neck pour issue, and we all in good fun will jab at each other once in a while about that. Again, all in good fun, of course. But he believes the neck pour. I don't believe the neck pour. I know Myron's a neck pour guy. So I feel like it's like Whiskey Tube is divided on this, and just whiskey drinkers in general, because it seems to kind of be 50-50 down the road. Drinking by a fire changes the taste. Yeah, that could. Yeah, Brian, do that and let me know what you think. And just on a mild temperature day when it's not something so extreme, when it's about even with the temperature in your house, just nose something and sip it inside, and then go outside, wait a minute or two, and then do the same thing and see if it changes anything. So anyway, in conversation one night, Brian, we were kind of talking, going back and forth, I think in the comments about the neck pour. And you had said that you don't like leaving whiskey out, like if you have a pour of whiskey and you don't drink it in a certain amount of time. I think you said you dump it out. Am I correct about that, Brian? Minnesota Dave's been curious about that one as well. Hangen's favorite neck pour, the OGD 100. Neck pour is real, but only once, like a balloon version 1 pick. And ops all gone. Neck pour is real. A wine expert agreed on this, and I am sure it translates to whiskey. Even having it sit in your glass makes a difference. Well, we're about to experiment with that. Let me look up something real quick here. What the hell is that from? Okay, sorry, I'm grabbing something out of my email. Oh, for crying out loud. Why is it when I'm on the spot and I'm trying to do something? So anyway, I did try to do some research on what professionals are saying about the neck pour, because everybody's got their opinion on it on Whiskey Tube. But like, I want to know what distillers are saying about it. So I did come across this. I couldn't find a ton, to be perfectly honest. But I did come across this. And this is from an article where they were talking to this guy who said, Pat Heist, PhD, co-founder and chief scientific officer of Wilderness Trail Distillery, said there is no technical, chemical, or other related answer that I have heard to explain the neck pour. My thoughts from the standpoint of a chemist, whiskey enthusiast, and expert are that the first pour is more about the mood, the premeditated expectations, the physiological state, and what the taster had to eat recently. And that's more my take on it. I was going to get to the neck pour after this, but the reason that I trash the neck pour so much is like I've said a billion times, this whiskey has been exposed to air for its entire existence. And even on an unopened bottle, there's that much air in the top of it. And I just don't think that exchanging this much whiskey for this much more air is going to change the entire flavor profile of a whiskey. And that's what everybody who defends the neck pour says. I had my first pour of it. I didn't like it. Then I let it sit for a couple weeks and it really opened up. You're not going to get a whiskey to open up adding this much air to a bottle. It just doesn't make sense. And then they discount all the perfectly reasonable reasons why, like maybe you're remembering it different. Maybe you're a little dehydrated. I know if I have whiskey and I'm not like well hydrated, even just a little cotton mouth, it just kind of, it hits bitter. What you ate earlier, what you had to drink before it, all these different things, there's so many. Is it your first pour of whiskey of the day? Sometimes that makes a difference because it's a shock to your palate. Like, all those things are perfectly reasonable things to explain the neck pour phenomenon. And they're all completely discounted for this one idea that whiskey that's been exposed to air for its entire life is going to completely change once this much more air is exposed to it. And by that rationale, no two drinks of whiskey should ever taste the same, because every time you drink it, you're adding more air to it. And then so it opened up, it tastes better with the neck pour, or after the neck pour. So somehow it always only changes the whiskey for the good. But then the same people say if you leave your whiskey sitting out too long while you're drinking it, it changes it for the worse. And so there's just none of this shit would hold up in court. That's all I'm saying. All right, let me read the hate comments I'm getting here, because I'm sure there are some. I'll drink it, but sometimes not as good. I think that was a different comment from Brian. Let's see. By the way, when I'm fumbling through these comments, it sucks because I have to actually grab the little cursor and drag this up and down, and then sometimes it goes too far, because if I try to use my wheel to scroll up and down, it just goes all over the place. So, okay, everything tastes better out of fire. Okay, here we go. I might be superstitious, but I always throw the neck pour of a bottle of OGD bottled and bond out the window for the dead homies. All right, I mean, that's a good reason to do it. If you're going to get rid of the neck pour, it might as well be for the dead homies. I'm about that. I don't believe in the neck pour. I figure the juice in the bottle is all the same. It gets jostled around in transit, so how different can it be? Well, to me, it's just about more oxygen being introduced back into the bottle. But it's always been exposed to oxygen. And keep in mind, we're talking about the neck pour. Nobody ever says every time I have a drink out of this bottle, it's a completely different, it opens up more. It's only that first this much air that everybody talks about. Peter White, it's exposed to air in the cask. Yes, it is. It's also exposed when it goes out. It's exposed when it goes through filtration process. It's exposed to air when it's being bottled. When it sits, like some of these whiskeys will sit in a vat for days before they get bottled. Neck pour exposed to synthetic cork versus real cork. I mean, I suppose that could be something, but then you could just shake up your whiskey before you pour it. Physics won't allow you to pour from the neck. If you want to get the neck pour, use a syringe. I've actually thought about doing that, Scott, because of that exact same thing. I mean, the neck pour doesn't literally mean it's this whiskey. It just means it's the first that you pour out of it. But yeah, absolutely. What I thought about doing is taking a fresh bottle and then extracting it from the bottom of the bottle and the top of the bottle, and then, extracting with never never turning the bottle over, extracting a couple ounces out of it, and then going back and doing the same thing and see if it changes. Sugar Kitty, I believe Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. I believe there ought to be a constitutional amendment outlawing AstroTurf and the designated hitter. I believe in the sweet spot, opening your presents Christmas. Also, I bet the higher proof is more in your head. It matters versus sub 110 proof. Let's see. It's okay to be wrong. Get it below the shoulder. I'm saying it usually drinks less hot after it opens up, but it changes. Local honey cures allergies. So local air may be more acclimated to the individual where they are at the time and place. All those things are correct. Just depends on the person, to be fair. The flavors I get change a lot every time. But none of that is ever attributed to any of those other things. It's always just the air. It's never your memory about it. It's never the food you ate. It's never your first pour of whiskey. It's never maybe your dry mouth. It's never what you drank before. Pour from one of the homies. Goes in my infinity bottle. Don't throw it out. Whiskey is magic. I agree, though. There are bigger flavor variables in the neck pour. My oxygen. Then why do people let wine breathe? I don't know. Wine might be a completely different thing, but maybe that's bullshit too, Brian. I don't know. I'm going to invent a whiskey bottle with a special long neck that leaves some air space for a 750. What's up, Hatfield? Bourbon stirred, not shaken. Scotch people will say to let the glass sit 1 minute for every year before you drink it. That sounds like bullshit. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't say that, but that sounds like... Okay, so Brian, I want you to tell me in the comments, how long is too long for a bourbon to sit before it goes bad? Like when you pour it in your glass. Because I think I remember you telling me that you actually will pour it out. And so I really want to know this before we move on to the next thing. Food you ate earlier is a big one for sure. Absolutely. Here's what I will say. Brian, I will buy you 4 single barrels. Oh, Brian has to head out. I was just going to do the experiment. Because I have one, Brian, that I've left sitting out for a while. I've left it out for 3.5 hours. Before you go, is that too long? If you're still in here. Like, is that long enough for where you would say it? Because I remember you said that if it sits out for too long, but I don't know what the time reference was. That's why I was asking. Only pour it if you have cats. Get hair on it, maybe. On vacation in South Dakota. You in the Black Hills, Brian? Anyway, go subscribe to Buffalo Bourbon Enthusiast. Brian and Deb are great folks. I had a great time with them on Baker Drinks. They got a good channel going over there. So, Chris Jenkins, dude, haven't seen Chris Jenkins in a while. So Brian says yes. I'm assuming this is long enough then. This is a glass of San Diego. Bam. Paul Sutton. This is the Bottled and Bond Minnesota Vikings. Ring of Honor. I'm going to start the countdown clock until Sugar Kitty trashes the Vikings. Anyway, I set this glass out at 3 o'clock this afternoon. For example, never drink whiskey if you have heartburn. Never going to be a good time. Yeah, that's true. By the way, I think I saw Jeff Castle earlier and I didn't shout him out. So what's up, Jeff Castle? Have to head out for dinner with the family. Take care. Well, take care, Minnesota, Dave. Nice chatting with you. I'm going to get out of here in 10 minutes. Oh, by the way, folks, the South Dakota, only in Minnesota thinks SD is South Dakota. I also did, but I knew because I watched their last show. Okay, all right, Toro. You should have just left that last part out, and then it would have made me look like an idiot. But, I mean, most of what I've said on this stream tonight probably makes me Sugar Kitty. Mike Meyer is here. Man, I'm getting all these folks I haven't talked to in a while. Chris Jenkins, Mike Meyer. Believe it or not, there is a 1-minute rule per year for Scotch, not beers. I'm not saying that there's not a rule. I'm saying if you let a 12-year Scotch sit out for 8 minutes versus 12 minutes, is it really gonna make a difference? I've got a Macallan 18 or something I could do the experiment with. Okay, so final experiment before we get out of here. So this has been sitting out. Now I got this bottle. It's below the shoulder for all you neck pour enthusiasts. So this is kind of an average drink bottle. It should be beyond whatever superstitious nonsense people want to attribute to the neck pour. I poured this glass at 3 o'clock. It's been almost 4 hours that it's been sitting out in the open air, just right down here in the bar. So now I'm going to pour a fresh one out of the bottle. And I'm going to pour about the same amount just to... Sometimes I notice the amount that you pour in the glass can really affect the nosing, because obviously if there's more volume in there. Okay. So on the right, I have the normal one that has not been sitting out for 4 hours, and I have this one. And before I get into these two, the Patreon drawing tonight for samples coming up, and I have a lot of people have already won a couple of times, so now I'm dwindling it down to just people who haven't won yet. The samples that I'm giving away tonight, I've got BAM. This is a Stranahan's American Single Barrel Cask Strength. That's a banger if you like single barrel cask strengths. And a couple bottles I just picked up. I've got this J. Carver Runestone Rye, aged 7 years. I have not done a review of this yet, but I am telling you this is a very interesting rye whiskey. I will leave it at that. I'll let you decide if it's good or bad, but it is definitely... How old is this? Okay, good God. It is definitely out there for sure. This is the one I was talking about that I got tons of pine and mint on the nose. Artfully Bourbon, what's happening? But this is, it's not about the size of Ben's pour, it's his magic in the glass. Thank you, Sugar Kitty. I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and take that as a compliment. And then I'll throw in a sample of the new Penelope Weeded. Review of this coming out tomorrow. If you're a Patreon supporter, it's already up on Patreon, so you can go check that out tonight. So yeah, if you want to join the Patreon, that would help me out a ton. You get involved in every single whiskey drawing I do. I do 2 a month at least. And so depending on what tier you sign up at, you get a certain amount of entries into the drawing. But no matter what, if you're at any paid tier, you do get in the drawings. And so I am, like I said, I'm dwindling the list down now, so every Patreon supporter will eventually win a sample pack. If you're not a Patreon supporter and you want to throw a couple bucks at the channel, $5 super chat will get you 1 entry to the wheel. Let's get into tasting these real quick before we do all of that. So on my right, I have the regular one here that I just poured, and on the left I have the one that I poured 4 hours ago. Now keep in mind this is supposed to make the whiskey go bad. Air in the bottle makes the whiskey better until you get a certain amount of air in the bottle, then it makes the whiskey worse, and then whiskey in a glass exposed to air makes it worse. Just if I can keep up with the science of the neck pour. On the nose, yeah, I'm not... Yeah, no difference on the nose, to be honest. If you poured these and said they're from the same bottle, but I messed with one of them, so Torup, how do I accept Bitcoin if somebody wanted to pay me in Bitcoin? I don't know how that works. I'm not anti-cryptocurrency. When Torup was going off on the Whiskey 6 live stream because we were all talking about crypto, because I said one of my old guy things is I don't understand blockchain. I'm not against it at all. I'm saying there's nobody can explain the technology to me in a way that I'll ever understand it. I don't get how it works. That's what it is. So would I just need like a crypto wallet, Toro? So let me ask you this, Toro. Make a wallet or use an exchange, like a Coinbase or something? You could just exchange between 2 people on that? Sorry, I'm kind of getting off subject here, but I'm interested. But Torup, I'm seeing a fallacy in your logic here. Because it says, I only tip in... let's see. I only tip in Bitcoin. I don't know what SNS means. Bakers at least took real money that central planners can't print out of thin air. That's right, but certainly you have regular money, I'm sure, to just interact with daily life. So why wouldn't you tip other people in the shitty money that central planners can print out of thin air and just keep all Bitcoin to yourself. That's what I would do. I just spend all the fiat currency and whatever first. Coinbase sucks. Crypto, Bitcoin is not crypto. Are you sure? I thought that's what that was. What is Bitcoin then if it's not crypto? All right, let's get into the tasting here because I got to get out of here soon. Cheers, everybody. Prison wallet hanging AZ. I get that reference. I can't remember where I heard that first, but that's from something, isn't it? All right, let's get into the palette here on the regular one. Why can't they make a full coin? Spread the love, help engage the brain cells so people learn and build conviction. I would do the exact opposite because I'm a prick. I would just want nobody to know about Bitcoin, and then when the fiat currency falls and I'm holding all this Bitcoin, I can be like, and just, you know. I don't know why me going is what I would do, but I feel like it's what I would do. Wait, Open Dime is a prison wallet. You can store billions on it. Oh, so prison wallet is actually a thing? I thought you were, when you said prison wallet, I've heard that reference for like when people smuggle things in their ass into a prison. They call it their prison wallet or their prison purse. I was way off on that. I went down a very, very different path with that. I apologize for my crass comments. Yeah, I'm really not noticing anything different on these two. 21090 in the house. Which one of you, excuse me, do we have here in the chat? So when all the fiat goes south and there's no electricity, how do you do a transaction without electricity for the blockchain? There's that. All right. All right, talk amongst yourselves for just a moment here because as per the usual, I did not prepare and get my, it's Todd, okay, the bald one. I just didn't know who was at the keyboard tonight. All right, let me get this going. So these are the people here. Now, I know all of you guys are going to put hashtag rigged when I do this because, strangely enough, all my friends on here that have channels that I'm friends with are the ones that haven't won yet. So it's a few of them left. But of course, if anybody that I know personally wins this, it's going to be rigged. All right. Let's get this out of the way. Or stocks, our country deed records, our county deed records. Bigger problems. We should just have a live stream and just talk about all this kind of stuff some night. I would actually be interested in doing that. That'd be kind of fun. How do you use your Visa without electricity? Valid point. Don't want to derail the chat this much. Yeah, but no, that would be funny because I do like talking about this kind of stuff. The only thing is the reason I don't bring up too much like current events related stuff is because then things go off the rails and get too political and I don't really, I like to share my political views on stuff just because, I think people get inundated with that shit all day long and I don't know, people tend to, it's like, you don't have the same views as I do on X, Y, and Z and now I don't like you anymore. It's like, there's enough of that going on. All right. That being said, I do like to talk about political stuff, but I like to talk about it politely where people don't get... Not that, anybody in this chat would be like that. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. All right. Here we are. It's always Todd in the chat. Okay. I'm not even sure what blockchain is, to be fair. That's what I was saying on the other thing. Like, there's just, like, I've had it explained to me. Like, my oldest stepson is super into, this kind of stuff, and he's knowledgeable about it. But I just... I've had it explained to me, and it doesn't compute. Pun absolutely intended, if that was a pun, I guess. All right, let's spin these around. So this is all that's left out of the Patreon supporters that haven't won yet. And so let's get into it here. All right, going full screen. Nope, can't do that. Bourbon raffle for the 3 samples. What do we got? Oh, for God's sakes, why do they put blank spaces in here? I don't have any blank spaces. Remove the blank space. Watch, it's just going to keep hitting these blank spaces. You see on the side here, there aren't any blanks. I don't know why that has that. All right, Bourbon School, hit me with the hashtag rigged comments, because I know they're coming. Let's see. Blank wins, yeah, whoever's on the blank. Hanging AZ says, yeah, we come in here for a break. And I'm with you on that. I tend to be rigged. Who identifies as a blank space? It'd be funny if I had a Patreon supporter named Blank that I didn't know about, and that's who won. Let's see. Bakers for the win, I'm calling it. Pre-rigged, Hanging AZ. All right, so the Bourbon School, I'll send Brian a text about what he won here, but that's the show for tonight, folks. Thank you guys very, very much for hopping on. If you're interested, go check out the Patreon. I'm trying to build that up a little bit more. I'd like to build it up a little bit more and start doing some maybe Patreon-only live streams or stuff like that. I haven't done any bonus content in a little while here, but there's a bunch of bonus content down there, blending behind the scenes. You get entered into all the drawings that I do. And I'm usually giving away samples of, I try to include something cool off the shelf or something that maybe people don't have access to. But whatever I'm buying and reviewing is typically what I'm giving away. So if you got the extra couple bucks and you want to go support the Patreon, it's the only thing that gives me any self-esteem is how many followers I have. So, you know, you want me to feel good about myself, right? The other thing is about the, if you're a patron, you get your name added to this cool list at the end of all my videos. So there's that. But before I get out of here, again, thank you guys very much. OG Brick with the Patreon link. I have a buddy I hike with, and we can't talk about politics nicely, so we never do. My best friend and I are diametrically opposed on politics. But we'll still talk about it sometimes, and the way we do that is I always just look at it as like, I take it as an opportunity to learn something from her point of view. And, you know, so we just kind of talk like, well, this is what people tend to think on this. And actually, I shouldn't say we're diametrically opposed. We're diametrically opposed on certain things. There's certain things that we're in lockstep on, but I'm not going to get into politics. So, yeah, saying we're diametrically opposed is a bit of a stretch, but there are definitely a whole lot of things we don't agree on. But and usually I approach that as like when I'm finding something that I just don't understand what the hell's going on, I'll just call her up and be like, I need you to explain this to me from your perspective, so I understand it. So let's see, we have more coming. You have more coming of what? Are you talking about 2 1090 picks? Let's see. About the old line rum pick. Nice. All right, folks, that's the show for tonight. Again, thank you guys all very, very much. Go check out the Patreon if you want your name added to this list. Cheers. We'll see you.